So, it's been a little while. I've wanted to upload a video, and I didn't really have much to talk about or do, because there hasn't really been much going on lately. But I had a random video idea that came to me in a dream. I'm kidding, it just came to me. And I don't know, I wanted to make this video because it's something that I find interesting that not a lot of videos talk about. Something I've never really stated publicly, though could be inferred through my general hobbies and interests, is that I am a huge fan of Creative Engineering Incorporated, creators of the Rockfire Explosion, among a bunch of other shit. I remember first learning about the Rockfire Explosion when I was had to have been 9 years old. I always enjoyed Chuck E. Cheese before then, but once I found out about the Rockfire Explosion, I was like, damn, what we could have had is amazing. And what we do have is not that great in comparison. And now we have nothing, so, it doesn't really make a difference anymore. But either way, and I was pretty infatuated with the entirety of Creative Engineering's backlog of older animatronics. And I still am. In a sense, I kind of actually find Creative Engineering's earlier shows a little bit more interesting than the Rockfire Explosion or their other shows, partially because the fact that they haven't been, studied and torn apart nearly as much, but also partially because of the fact that it was just full of a lot of weird and kooky ideas that I really kind of like. And I just wanted to talk about some of them because I've been on a huge Rockfire Explosion kick recently, and I've got a lot of useless information kicking around in my brain that I want to vomit onto somebody else's brain. Now, I'm gonna start from the very beginning, at least the first thing that I care to talk about, which is Friendly Freddy. Friendly Freddy was the first Creative Engineering Incorporated full animatronic ever made. They had a couple of more basic figures before them, but he was the first one that was fully animated. Now, were the animations anything spectacular? No. It was pretty basic, but it was still notable for the time and for the fact that he was fairly cheap to produce and pretty easy to work on, as he stated many times in his advertising show tape.
And I promise you, if you've got average mechanical skill, you've got what it takes to take care of me forever.
But will you take care of me forever and ever?
He had pretty basic movements that would end up being featured on later animatronics as well. He had a pretty similar form factor to the Rockafire Beach Bear, where he could kick his legs a little bit and he crossed his eyes. Interesting to note, his head turning mechanism wasn't actually a pneumatic cylinder, it was a windshield wiper motor. I don't fully know why that is. I'm guessing it's because he didn't have the resources to be able to design a mechanism with a pneumatic cylinder in the space that he had, because Friendly Freddy, at least in comparison to other CEI characters, is pretty small. There's at least 3 Friendly Freddys known to exist. I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4, I'll get into that in a minute. There is the IAAPA one, there is the eBay one that popped up in 2001 that it hadn't been seen before then, and it hasn't been seen since. Nobody knows who bought it. It was around Florida, I think, so people theorize that it got destroyed in Hurricane Katrina, which, yeah. And then there was the Gaslight Jamboree one that got recently found and is currently undergoing restoration, but is apparently missing its face and guitar, which is a little unfortunate because I doubt Aaron Fector still has any of the original master molds for Friendly Goddamn Freddy from 1976. And then there's either a 4th one or still the same as the first one, where it was Friendly Freddy that got commissioned by an amusement park that then got changed into one of the characters for the Confederate Critter show, which was also a really early Creative Engineering thing. I know it started off as a Friendly Freddy before it got retrofitted into Bear Patch, but I don't know if that Friendly Freddy was the one from the IAAPA or if it was one specifically commissioned by that amusement park. Either way, he got retrofitted, and then I think he got retrofitted again later, and then he got destroyed with the rest of the Confederate critters. The only one that's known to still exist for a fact is the Gaslight Jamboree Friendly Freddy, which again is currently undergoing restoration. Now, after Friendly Freddy released in '76, a couple of places commissioned different shows for Creative Engineering to make for them. And one of these shows was one of my personal favorites, the Bear Country Jubilee.
Bear Country Jubilee, the darndest thing you'll ever see.
Now, the wiki says this was loosely based off of the Country Bear Jamboree. You can just say it was based on the Country Bear Jamboree, but really only in name and concept only. It was really quite different as far as the staging, the story, and the characters of the show went. As far as, public information is concerned, I'll get into that in a bit. It was commissioned for 2 parks. It went to Americana Amusement Park and Maury's Pier. These characters were very basic in their movements because it was like one of the first ever full stage shows ever made by Creative Engineering, along with the Jingle Bell Jamboree, which I just don't even care enough about to talk about here. And it featured 7 full-size characters on stage. On stage left, there was Pierre Le Bear and Waldo, and they were the master of ceremonies for the show. Their dialogue is actually some of the only pieces of the show tape that has been found from, I think it was from Maury's Pier.
Well, hi there, folks. I'm Waldo, and welcome to the Bear Country Jubilee, the darndest thing you'll ever see.
Welcome, my friends. I am Pierre Le Bear. My friend and I would like to present to you a fabulous display of down-home country music with
the pickin'est, grinnin'est bunch of rascals this side of the mountains, the 4 Seasoned Bears.
On the main stage, you've got the 4 seasoned bears. You've got, in the center, Chet Fatikins. Yeah, he's the one who you'll see in a lot of Creative Engineering warehouse tours where Aaron will just mistakenly call him Billy Wilbur because I think he just forgot that his name is Chet Fatikins.
For example, this guy here, his name was Billy Wilbur.
Then there is Boom Boom Bosco, who's on the bass, whose face ended up getting reused for Wolfpack 5 Beach Bear. Buddy Crash on drums, whose face ended up getting reused for Wolfman and the Wolfpack 5. And you can also pretty frequently see in those Creative Engineering warehouse tours. And then my favorite, Fingers Dan, who actually inspired a custom animatronic that I'm currently working on, which that'll get its own video eventually. Just wait. Again, the 4 of them seem to have pretty basic movements, at least as far as anybody can tell, considering the fact that there's no actual video footage of these guys. And then on stage right is Beatrice. I have no idea what role she would have played in this show. Again, Aaron Fector just calls her Mama Grandbags.
It's Mama Grandbags.
Because he doesn't remember that it was a different character. I assume she would have played a similar role to Mama Grandbags in the show, where she's like obviously the grandma kind of figure, but who knows at this point. As far as most people can tell, these characters were very basic in movements. Unfortunately, there's no video footage, so we can't really confirm what movements they would have had, but it can be pretty well assumed that it was fairly basic considering how early on in their in the career these guys were. These shows were sent out in, I think, 78, and then one of them was used for a couple of years and then eventually got destroyed. I don't know why. And then the other one got sent back to Creative Engineering in 1984, and they were like fucked up somehow. I don't know how they managed to get that bad within a span of 6 years. Then they got restored by Creative Engineering and they were put back up for sale, never got bought, and that's the story of why they were just sitting in a random room in Creative Engineering for the last 30 some odd years. That show also came back with, I believe, the Buford and God, what's his name? Mortimer, which is the melting moose head and the buffalo that you'll see in those tours as well. I completely forgot to mention them because they are very uninteresting. It's literally just the Buff, Melvin, and Max characters from the Country Bear Jamboree, except they're not funny.
Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Buffalo.
Oh no, not again.
Their part of the show tape is actually also one of the only things that still got preserved. Now, I know that there was a unit of those two that was also shown on a demo reel at Creative Engineering like for advertising. I don't know if it was the same one. I have to think it was the same set because it looks the same, but I don't know. They had their original show tape, and then later, for one of the amusement parks, they got redone into being the Hard Luck Bears characters, where it was the audio was slightly changed from the Hard Luck Bears show, but they kept all their character names. So, like, Waldo was now Repeat, Chet Fatikins was now Billy Wilbur, and that's kind of why I sort of forgive Aaron Fector for not remembering their original names during tours. It's still kind of funny to me, though. They cut out all of Goonie Bird's audio, and they added in skits for the buffalo and the deer, which were just so violently unfunny. It's like, it hurts. They also had a character named Ratso up in like a opera box in the theater. That character ended up also getting sent back to Aaron, and that's the one that you'll see in a lot of tours in his main Rockfire room that he has his show in, or had his show in. I believe Maurice Peer was also the one that had a piano playing gorilla that was just Fats, but he had a inside his piano there was a Beatrice head that would come out that was it was Mama Grandbags, and she would like ridicule him. It was pretty cute. I liked that. The only footage of him features him saying "Who loves you, baby?" similar to how Fats does at the end of Banana Hill. So I have to imagine that before that footage was taken, he was actually singing Banana Hill. So I do wonder if that was straight up just the Fats recording or not.
Who loves ya, baby?
You ain't nothing but a bag of blubber.
So that's kind of all we have on the Bear Country Jubilee, but then the second incarnation of them is much more well documented, and that's the aforementioned Hard Luck Bears.
See, civilized music ain't so bad.
If you call that civilized music, you can hit me in the mouth.
The Hard Luck Bears was a pretty similar concept, but with revamped characters and better movements and just overall better produced. And it was shown at the IAAPA show, I believe 1 year alongside the Wolfpack 5. I think they were either both shown in 78 or 79, because I know the Wolfpack 5 was shown both years. The Hard Luck Bears featured Billy Wilbur, Billy Bill, who I hate this design so much, at least compared to Fingers Dan. I do not like how Billy Bill looks. Billy Boy, who was just a Dingo Star reskin, and then Billy Bob, the original Billy Bob, before Billy Wilbur became Billy Bob. Honestly, the four of them I find so much less visually interesting than the original Four Season Bears. Now they were called the Hard Luck Bears. That was what the band was called, and that was what the show was called. Although Mama Grandbags does still call it the Country Bear Jubilee in the beginning of the of her song for introducing the show, I think that was really just so that they could come up with a good rhyme for "we're really gonna have a good time, I do believe." So, peak songwriting. Stage right was Mama Grandbags. She was now she was much bigger than Beatrice was, and honestly a lot more pleasantly designed. I really like how Mama Grandbags looks. And then next to her was Goonie Bird, who was straight up just Looney Bird. There was like 0 character changes between the time he was in the Hard Luck Bears and the time he made it to the Rockfire Explosion. The only character differences between Looney Bird and Goonie Bird are really just slight visual stuff. Like Goonie Bird has a bigger face and a bigger beak and like more feathering, and they have different barrels, and that's really about it. On stage left is Pete Thornsberry, and my favorite character from the Hard Luck Bears show, Repeat Thornsberry. Pete is just a big guy. Repeat is a bigger guy with a big-ass wrench and a dead chicken.
What did you bring your dead chicken up here for?
It's to keep the out.
There ain't no around here.
Shucks, works pretty good, don't it?
I love Repeat so much. Those two stand in front of pretty much what exactly became Billy Bob, Rockfire Explosion Billy Bob's backdrop with Smitty Super Service Station. I'm pretty sure some of the props literally stayed the exact same too. Now, as I mentioned before, these guys are much more well documented, and that's definitely partially because of the fact that there was more than just 2 units of these shows made. I think there was something like 9 or something like that were sold to a bunch of theme parks around the world. Currently, there's 2 shows technically known to still exist, which is the one in, I forget which park it is, that got turned into the Robotoons, which I don't like this show. I don't like these reskins. I don't think they look that good. Goonie Bird apparently didn't get reskinned though, so he's still kicking around back there. And then the Knobles show, which they had the Pete and Repeat on display in their museum for years, and I guess they still apparently use Billy Boy as an electric chair animatronic for their haunted house. They still have the rest of them kicking around in storage. The rest of the Hard Luck Bear shows that were ever sold are presumed to be destroyed, unless one just appears one day, which honestly, it wouldn't surprise me knowing how creative engineering shows tend to just pop up sometimes. The Hard Luck Bears I find a little bit less interesting, mainly because the Hard Luck Bears themselves I just don't really like visually. Again, I don't like Billy Bill. I don't think that design works as well for a bear as it does for a gorilla. Billy Boy is just kind of uninteresting. He gets one line throughout the main show tape that Creative Engineering made.
Yeah, I'd rather punt porcupines barefooted than to make Mom mad at us.
Billy Bob, I guess, is kind of funny looking. Billy Wilbur is the best out of the 4 of them. I like how nervous he sounds all the time. But anyway, yeah, Hard Luck Bears is much more well documented, and you can find some pretty decent footage of them performing online. The next show that Creative Engineering made was, of course...
Hey, King Kong, if you're not careful, you're gonna break your piano.
Gentlemen and ladies,
I love the Wolfpack 5. I could go on for hours about how much I love these animatronics. That show included the Wolfman, the original incarnations of Fats and Beach Bear, Dingo Star, and Queenie the Fox / Mini Mozzarella if you were at Showbiz. If you were anywhere else, she was Queenie. If you were at Showbiz, she was Minnie. Showbiz really wanted a mouse character to go with the pizza theme. Aaron Fector didn't want to change Queenie. They made her change Queenie to Minnie. Honestly, I like Minnie better than I like Queenie. I don't know, Queenie just is such a weird juxtaposition for her vocal performance from the rest of them. Now for this show, there was also a bunch of these produced and sent around the world to different places. Most of them have also been destroyed. There is a few individual animatronics from the Wolfpack 5 kicking around, and there's 2 full Wolfpack 5 shows that are confirmed to exist as of right now. And that is the one that Aaron Fector owns, that he bought, he got it back from Showbiz because they didn't need it anymore, because he built the Rockfire Explosion for them, and then it was put in storage for a bunch of years, and then he took them out in 2015 because that guy who runs Funtown Guntown Mountain, or ran that place, was slated to buy them. Thank God he didn't, because they would have been destroyed. So then they just kind of sat in the factory halfway restored for a bunch of years. And then the original 1978 IAAPA ones that were believed to have been lost to time for a while popped up on, I think, either eBay or just some other auction site in 2023. They originally got sold to Japan and were used in an amusement park there, and then they were listed. They were listed for sale, and there's pictures of them, and they look so sad, but that's to be expected. They're almost 50 years old, and they've probably never seen maintenance outside of the original show. Now, the other individual characters that I mentioned are kicking around are the Fats and the Wolfman from the Gaslight Jamboree. Those 2 are also undergoing restoration currently, and they were just... That show was just a hodgepodge of creative engineering characters and are all, again, undergoing restoration. The Wolfman got sent to Connor Lachinsky, and the Friendly Freddy and Fats are at Animatronic Warehouse. There is a possibility of there being a couple more Fats kicking around the world still, because there was A, that one that I mentioned that had the Mama Grandbags head and the piano, and B, there was another one at another amusement park also acting as like an advertising piece for the Hard Luck Bear show. And if you wanted to stretch the definition a bit, there is another one because of the Knobles Billy Bill still existing, and then the other one that got turned into the Robotoons, because Billy Bill and Fats use the same mechanism. But you're splitting gorilla hairs at that point. I love the Wolfman so much. He's such a cool character. I love him. He's so good. In, I think, 1980 for that IAAPA, Aaron Fector actually made another Wolfman, but this one was a reskin of Rolf de Wolf, which makes sense in terms of resources, but man, I just never thought this one looked that good. I don't know, there's something really weird about it. He looks like so much younger, and it's weird. I don't know. I think the Buddy Crash sculpt just suits him so much more. Then, of course, they made the Rockafire Explosion after that, which, you know, people have talked at length about them, so I don't really have anything to add, frankly, on the Rockafire Explosion. So let's skip right over them. I'm just going to go straight into what was technically, as far as I'm aware, the next show that Creative Engineering produced, which was the Moon Rockers.
Lizards, come here, little lizards. Tell me where the lizards went.
There's only one unit that got produced, and they didn't sell any. It was they you know, sales were slowing down, so Aaron was like, shit, okay, fuck, space, and they made the Moon Rockers. The Moon Rockers is a really silly show. I personally don't like it, but it has a lot of hardcore fans. The only thing that I really find that interesting about it is Quasar's giant fucking head, and it's just really funny watching that thing jiggle around as he performs. They were left to rot for a bunch of years, much like many other Creative Engineering animatronics, and then eventually, by the time that half the fucking factory exploded in 2013, they were pretty much permanently put out of service. There's a chance that they might be restored for the new Creative Engineering Museum, which I have no idea if that's ever actually going to happen or not, but tentatively they are still in poor shape. There really isn't much else to say about them because, again, there was no unit that was ever sold of them. So yeah, Moon Rockers. They were pretty cool. I could talk about the new Rockafire Explosion, but honestly, they are just way later, so they're like a different thing to me. I just wanted to talk about some of the earlier shows that I like. Best Creative Engineering characters, I will not budge on this point, is Wolfman, Repeat Thornsberry, and Rockafire Explosion Beach Bear. These are just factual statements. Anyway, I guess if anybody's interested in more stuff like this, I could talk about more stuff like this. But yeah. Bye.
We here at Smitty's Super Service specialize in service all the way.